I think there it goes.
Good evening and welcome to episode number 162 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast, recorded live on Sunday, May 22nd, 2022. I'm Alan. I'm a first responder, security expert, overall safety nerd, and with this weekend, a little bit more experience in reacting to emergencies.
And I'm Jeff. I'm based in Central Ontario. I'm a target shooter, ham radio operator, and general overall handyman.
Shoot.
Brad, you're on mute. There you go.
I have to unmute myself first. I'm Brad. I'm in Eastern Ontario. I'm a part-time amateur prepper since about 98. Constantly trying to better myself and weather the storm that went through.
My name is Ian. I'm an aspiring hermit and waiting for the collapse on Vancouver Island.
And Eric is away tonight, dealing with some family things, and everybody's we'll have some great news about that next week.
And if you want to help to support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, buy some swag. We have both the Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and the Tactical Velcro patch. You can get them both at www.prepperpodcast.ca. All proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
And if you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and like us on Facebook and submit a review on iTunes. Also, we want your feedback, good, bad, or just a topic you want us to cover. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
I didn't write this. I apologize in advance. We have some fenced-in content for you this episode. We're going to start off with some recent news, update on our personal preps, and then we'll get into our main topic, keeping food and critters safe. So, Ian, what's in the news this week?
Well, according to Prophet River Firearms and a few other retailers on CGN, they actually said they've been reporting record gun sales. No surprise, up until about May 18th, because I guess any political changes always creates gun sales. So I guess best week ever for most firearms dealers in Canada, which is pretty cool. Arm the peasants, great.
Absolutely.
Next thing is the new panic du jour. I figure that we should at least touch on it quickly. CBC is reporting that the monkeypox has arrived in Canada and supposedly 17 suspected cases in Montreal. I won't get excited yet, but it's there.
Sounds a whole lot like shingles.
Yeah. That's it.
From what I'm hearing, it's livable, right? You can survive it. You can come back from it.
Yep. But
that's what I've heard. It's not
going to stop them from locking us down anyways.
No, I wouldn't think so. My exit here from Quebec is 58 kilometers from the border, and we're maybe an hour or so out of Montreal. I figure give it another 50 cases, and we'll probably be locked down again.
Just wear a long sleeve shirt and gloves everywhere. You'll be fine. Two stories today relating to things that happened in Ontario this week. If you live in Southern Ontario, I hope you can hear us. A really nasty storm swept through most of the province, left probably close to 1 million without power overall. And depending on which report you read, anywhere between 3 and 9 people dead. So that is, it was a rather significant weather event. Started about 11 o'clock on 11 o'clock in my area on Saturday morning, and we got our power back about half an hour ago. Follow up to that, I like people a little bit less every day. The Ottawa bylaw enforcement had to remind everyone that noise complaints regarding generators are completely useless because there's no law again. There's a specific permission within their bylaws to run a generator 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the event of a power outage. So thanks everyone for complaining that loud generators are loud.
And somehow I'm just not shocked.
I'm in no way surprised.
Neither am I. We were just discussing that here over supper, that people were complaining to Ottawa bylaw about that. And we were all saying everybody can screw themselves and get better prepared for next time.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Jealousy often comes out in the form of complaints.
Absolutely.
Jeff, what have you got for us?
Well, I had a couple articles, but you stole my thunder on the first one.
Yep.
again, obviously, everybody, as I'll mention about the storm, the number I had was 5 confirmed and 3 other possible, so that would be 8. But either way, it was. I don't really know the words for it. Just, I mean, this from our podcast end of it, and our group of people. This is why we do what we do for what just happened. And all of us in the group, who were affected or maybe were not affected, we're going to be okay. Yeah, you might have some trees to clean up. You might have an insurance claim for a bunch of property down, but or property damage. Hopefully, as sad as fatalities are, I'm honestly not surprised that the number is not significantly higher. I'm
also surprised by that.
Yeah, I drove through the beast of it on the 401, and I was behind a transport, and either he was empty or only partially loaded, and he literally, and people say, oh well, this guy's wandering all over the road. He literally was guardrail to shoulder. A couple of times, I'm sure his passenger side wheels on his trailer come off the ground. It was just the worst rain, snow, anything I've ever driven through. 15 minutes tops, and it was gone. It was moving that fast. You could see it coming, and then it was just gone. So enough on that. I guess for now we'll obviously get into that later. But in terms of economic and food stuff and whatever, Sri Lanka is in a meltdown. The president, prime minister, whatever his position is, resigned a couple weeks ago over basic, incredibly bad mismanagement. Anyways, make a long story short, Sri Lanka has no money. They can't buy fuel. They can't buy food. There are any gas station that has fuel has lineups miles long. People are literally almost killing each other just to get fuel or just to get food. It's a really, really dire situation there. And I don't think it's the last country that's going to have this problem. So again, this is why we're here. This is what we do. Be prepared. Get your stuff ready. Have your supplies. And if you don't, especially after this storm, what I'm really hoping is the people who got through this storm and everything got okay are going to go, you know what? We're missing something here. Yeah, what you're missing is, and I was seeing it on a bunch of Facebook posts and all that, where people are like, I got no food. I'm running out of water. I'm this, and I'm sitting there going, the storm's only 18 hours. It was gone and you're already out of stuff. Like, come on, really? I mean, emergency preparedness tells you to be ready to survive without anything for a minimum of 72 hours and 18 hours. And they're complaining. I'm just at a loss, but anyways, I'll leave it at that.
I agree.
On the silver lining thing, though, with the Sri Lanka thing, is that they managed to, go to the politicians' houses, burn down the politicians' houses, and throw their cars into the water. So
that
at least
makes
they're
me
taking
so
it on
happy.
the right people.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Sorry, I missed the party.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. That's great news.
There's actually some good footage of them actually overrunning. Like, I guess the riot police were trying to keep them away from the politicians' subdivision, for lack of a better thing, and the people just steamrolled right over the riot police line. And
Perfect.
yeah, it was just like, you get enough people angry, and there's not enough protection in the world. So anyway.
All right. And so on that happy note, what have we done lately for preps? Brad?
I did a little bit of fuel rotation. Not much, but a little bit. And some surprising...
for the new listeners, fuel rotation means we took the jerry can, put it into our gas tank, and then filled it again at some other point. It's either that or Brad just picked it up into the hokey pokey. We're not sure yet.
No, I emptied a one jerry can and then filled up the rest of my gas tank in the van, and then filled up 2 jerry cans. And then those 2 jerry cans are actually sitting in Castleman right now at a friend of mine's place who is still without power. Probably won't get it back until late Tuesday afternoon. But
I think
I
you are
did
a
some
way
of that.
nicer person than I am for doing that.
Yes, well, longtime friend, and she's got a few kids of her own at home, and she is a kind of a foster house for a few other people in the area. And she is one of those mothers that she's the cool mom in the neighborhood. A lot
All
of
right.
people, a lot of kids go through her house, so no, it was important to get her power.
I
And her
expect.
sump pump is horrible.
Well, I
And
guess that's really nice of you, Brad.
yes. And I did a little bit of yard cleanup, but was not from this storm because I hardly got touched here at all. I actually really didn't get touched at all. And I started taking a tree down in my backyard to make room for my new shed. But it,
Nice.
again, had nothing to do with the storm. I had maybe 2 minutes of rain here. The wind came up to maybe 40 kilometers an hour. And then it was all over and the sky was beautiful. I was surprised at when I started hearing all the stuff on the chat about how much damage there was. And Jeff, you sent me that link to that Facebook video, and that was horrible, but incredibly cool to watch at the same time. And yeah, I had nothing happen here at all with that storm.
Well, that's a fair bit to go. Jeff, what do you got?
Well, I just topped off an empty fuel container that I had used. So I topped that back off. So I'm fully topped off. My vehicle was topped off. I did that before the storm. I figured I was hopefully out of the danger area, which it turned out I was, thank goodness. But again, always prepared and ready to go. Funny, Tracy makes a comment in the live chat there about that apparently, which I don't really use. I go through my fuel enough that I rarely use it. Is that fuel stabilizer? They're saying now you need to put more of it for every liter or gallon or whatever fuel that you use. So, I mean, believe that if you want. I'm not saying that they're not saying you need to do that. I wouldn't change what I use just to put more money in their pockets. But anyways, we'll see. And just so happened that it was my time to do my monthly generator checks just before the storm come anyways. So I just fired them up, give them a good run for a few minutes, plugged a couple things in, make sure everything worked, and I'm good to go.
Excellent. Ian, how about you?
Okay, well, as for myself, I basically just did a feed top up, so I had to kind of run around with the quad, make sure all the chicken supply hoppers were filled. So I know exactly how many I need to go and buy next time I run to the feed store. Finally started way too late on starting the greenhouse, and I got it about halfway done today, at which I was immediately told it was not level, so I guess I have to wait till it's completely built, and then I'll have to jack it up on one side and shove in some more supports, I guess, because looked level to me, but anyway. See
right.
here.
Keep going and fix it in post.
That's right. Well, if you try and like level it out right now, well, it's actually like half built. Everything's going to get out of whack, and once it's all tightened up and a solid piece, it's easier to jack up. So, see here. I pulled the one trailer out of winter storage and basically put the new insurance sticker on it. Checked the tires. We had to take care of some rust. And then I installed like a third, like a front wheel on it, so it's easier to wheel around when there's something on it. And let's see here. So I got that kind of set up because that's kind of like my quad trailer / bug out trailer, whatever. See here, I had to do a lot of work, so I was pretty much gone all week anyway. And then just doing some domestic stuff, like taking care of some dog issues, and I don't know, just kind of playing catch up on the acreage more than anything else. So it wasn't a big week for preps.
Well, there we go. I did very little preparing this week, but I did actually get to put my preps and plans into place yesterday and today. So as we discussed, a major storm came through. A little after 11, our power went out. It was clear skies, and then 10 minutes later, it was raining sideways with wind blowing first towards the west and then towards the east and back and forth. And then it got a little bit crazy. About a mile and a half east of us, it brought down probably 30 trees and at least 10 hydro poles along one road. So that kept me busy for a little bit. But the generator started on the first pole for my wife. She got it set up, and we worked the plans. Everything worked exactly the way it should. It went from a really scary situation to a little more than an inconvenience pretty fast. And then we did a family debrief today after we learned how much fuel the fridge actually takes to keep it cold, and all the other options. And we came up with about a 10-point lessons learned document, which is going to turn into a new SOP for the next time the power goes out. So we just pick a task and do it, and everybody knows what to do. So that was the fallout from that, is that it went exactly the way it should have. And then today I just went out and I topped up a jerry can because I'd gone through some. And so that's all I've got. And so on to the main topic. We're going to talk about our gardens. We have two basic things. We want to keep some animals out, and we want to keep our good animals in. So why don't we start with predators, I guess. We want to.
Yeah, I guess I can talk about that. So I guess what are we trying to keep out of the garden more than anything else? So if you have a victory garden, survival garden, whatever you want to call it, obviously you want to be the one eating the stuff, not nature. So a couple things we got to keep out of the garden itself, which would be rabbits, bugs of various sorts, and deer. So I guess how do you all keep them out of your gardens? I guess more is a big question.
Shotgun.
Yeah. Well, that is a solution.
We when we built our first garden, we put up the first year we did it, we put up a 4-foot deer fence all the way around. So we got the roll of it, and our first garden was fairly small, like 10 by 10. It was a raised bed, and we were able to just put the stakes in the corner and run the fencing around it, and that worked just fine. We had no critters get into it. Then last year we didn't put that up, and we still had no critters get into it. So I think the abundance of coyotes in the area keeps our rabbit population at bay enough to keep the wascally wabbits on their toes and not in our feed.
I think the big thing with rabbits too is if you use chicken wire or something to wrap around your garden, whether it be raised beds or just regular ones, you still got to dig them down deep, right? Because they do actually dig warrens, as you know. So I mean, you got to make sure it goes down at least a foot. So if they're trying to get into the garden, they might give up after a while before they come back up underneath the fence, which is a bit of a problem.
Yeah. So sorry,
go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say for my this is the first year I've had gardens, and I decided to go with a raised bed, and I actually built them 4 feet off the ground for that specific rabbit purpose. I'm right across the road from a conservation area, no hunting, so it's not uncommon for me to have almost any critter you could talk about hanging around in my yard: deer, rabbits, groundhog, you name it. So that was the main reason that I popped it up that high in the air. And then just for the deer and that, I went ahead and nailed about another 3 feet or 2 feet of chicken wire on top of that, hoping that that's going to be high enough that the deer will stay away.
Well, one thing we do with the in the chicken coop is if you actually I guess coat or fence off what you don't want them to eat. So like for example, when you grow up the plant called wormwood, it'll actually deworm chickens, but you don't want them to eat it right down to the root. So you grow it far enough into a bush that you put the wire around it, and they don't eat what comes through the bush, and it still keeps the plant alive, but at least allows them to feed on what they need. So you can also control how much pests, which in this case would be the chickens actually eating a plant. You can actually control how much they eat, and actually use it as a I guess how would you describe it? A pruning method too, if you want to keep them off the main plant anyway.
It's a reciprocal, beneficial relationship.
That's right. I guess with the deer too, like the fencing has to be super high, right? I mean, it has to be more than 6 feet high to keep the deer out, does it not?
I would have to agree with that.
I guess I'm going to find out.
Anyway, the other thing too is there's some plants they won't eat, right? Like for example, like alpacas obviously won't eat potato plants, and a couple other ones like they won't actually touch garlic. But if you can actually find stuff that the natural predators in the area don't like, that is something to consider as a gardening option.
Hmm.
And would it work to just put those kind of around the perimeter as a deterrent,
Not
and then grow your
necessarily.
other stuff inside?
They might just hop over them and get to the goodies.
They can jump pretty high, can't they?
Yeah, I was honestly I was expecting deer, just because we've got so many of them around, but we weren't bothered by them at all. Now that was our backyard fence is 6 feet, so maybe that was the deterrent, but I didn't even see like signs of them being close. So
And of course, you can also work it the other way too. So, say, for example, if you actually want to have the deer clean up your bad apples that fall to the ground, and you don't want to pick them up yourself, you can always keep the tree fenced off a few feet around it, but let the apples fall to the ground. They can eat those. Also makes the meat taste better when you do use that shotgun on them during hunting season legally
There you go.
with the tag. It might work to your benefit to have them to eat certain stuff, right, that you're not going to use anyway.
it was self-defense, officer, I swear.
It's coming right for me.
Yep.
But I had an apple in my hand and a shotgun in the other.
Now, chicken wire. Usually, chicken wire is metal. Is there? I had a plastic like deer fence that we found at the garden center when I was there getting stuff for our last our first garden a couple of years ago. Is there a non-metallic option for chicken wire?
Not really per se, because usually if you're trying to keep other pests out that are like predators in the form of like mink and stuff and raccoons, they'll actually eat through plastic chicken wire to get to the chickens. And then same thing with deer, I guess. You can certainly use plastic deer fencing. It'll work for sure. By same token, something like goats that you may have in the neighborhood or rabbits or whatever will chew right through plastic too.
We have a bit of a pig problem around here. Potbelly pigs.
Yeah, they're same idea.
Yeah.
Are they somebody's pets or are this roaming free?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep, they get it every once in a while. We had one come up to the backyard a couple of years ago. Turned out there was more than one missing potbelly pig in the neighborhood at the time, which was kind of entertaining. Yeah. We fed it some pumpkins, and actually the next year, where the pumpkins had been eaten, we had a plant grow up, and then we had some pumpkins of our own. That was kind of entertaining.
Yes, pigs love pumpkins.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there an option for, say, deer fencing, where if you happen to be in a municipality, you're not out in the country, and you have a 6-foot limit on fencing? Is there like a chemical option that would deter them without damaging anything? Just something that would make it undesirable for them to come near?
I know. I was just thinking when you mentioned that, I don't think there's a sonic one that would work that wouldn't drive your dogs batty as well. But by the same token, though, as far as I don't know anything else that would work.
My grandma used to put cayenne pepper around the perimeter of her garden about every 3 weeks in the summer, and she said it kept the squirrels and the raccoons out.
Yeah, could be.
And
maybe just
there was no real fencing there. There were plenty of squirrels and raccoons around, but her crops were never damaged. So
I know it keeps ants away for sure.
I don't know if that's causation equaling correlation.
I've heard that for insects, but you were asking about to keeping deer out, like if
I was thinking, like, just deter them from coming in the first place. Yeah, like if I'm where I live, I've got plenty of open field behind me, but I am legally speaking in a municipality that's subject to bylaws and things like fence limits. And
I found my sister found this, and my parents found this when they were at their farm, was a motion light.
Okay.
They come into range and the light kicks on and they get a little spooked and they take off.
Interesting.
I don't know. I don't remember how well it worked, but I remember hearing them say that was something that they had heard somewhere else, and there was not a lot of damage done to their garden that year.
Well, I guess that makes sense, because most animals like to work under the cover of darkness. Melissa's asking how to get rid of June bugs. I'm assuming that means June bugs. The B and the N are right next to each other on the keyboard.
Yes, she absolutely hates June bugs.
I my favorite thing for June bugs is actually hitting them with a baseball bat. You can see them coming because they're pretty big, and you give a few of them a smack, and then like they want to stay away after that. It's kind of a kill one, leave the others alive, like leave another one alive to tell the others. And I don't have June bugs in my backyard anymore, so.
And I guess the with the bugs too, like, sorry, I missed the part of that with the internet connection the way it is, but keeping bugs away. So is malathion still a thing? Do people still spray that?
Not if they want to have healthy children.
That's what I figured. Or is it more of a caterpillar thing? But yeah, I mean, soapy water to keep the bugs off the plants is one thing.
Yep.
Also, like around here, we just have a bunch of bird boxes, or bird houses, bat boxes. Get the natural pest killing happening. It just makes our job easier. We usually have a pretty bug-free zone around here.
Yeah, we were actually talking about the same thing. We were actually going to put a bat house on the back of our on the back of the shop, and maybe one in the shed, because we find when we have bats around, they don't eat a lot of mosquitoes. And then we were actually talking about planting flowers that attract dragonflies. And my darling wife was looking into that, and I don't remember where we landed on it. We were talking about it earlier today. Things that attract dragonflies, because apparently dragonflies eat just an absolute ton of mosquitoes. And so
that I will definitely attest to that. Yes, that is true. Yeah, we have had 100 dragonflies in our ditch last year. I don't remember what the plant was out there that they loved, but all of last year in my front yard, no mosquitoes. Going to the backyard, lots of mosquitoes. Really
there you go. It's probably something like giant hogweed or something that you don't want around, because that's how things go for me. But yeah, that's something that we were looking into, is finding plants to attract the dragonflies, which then eat the mosquitoes, and then everything, circle of life and all that. Because I don't recall ever being bothered by dragonflies before, but I definitely get bothered by mosquitoes. So.
And I know, people don't like them, but bats are also a good exterminator of mosquitoes. They eat them by the pound if they can find them. So, again, like, I know a lot of people don't like bats buzzing around.
Oh, I love seeing bats. Bats mean fewer bugs. I'm always happy to see bats.
Yeah, I have no issue with them.
I'm waiting for my new shed to get here to put a bat box up on it.
Excellent.
Just for that same reason.
And so, what about livestock? What are we going to do to keep our livestock safe?
Well, I guess it depends on what you have. First off, is I suppose assuming you use chickens as a prime example, like, you're going to be trying to keep the people coming in from the air. First off, like hawks, eagles, everything else. Everybody's trying to eat your chickens, right? So even the roosters act as a natural, protector of the flock, which is good. For us, just having the larger animals around the property, like the large dog or the alpacas, keeps the birds from coming in. Now, also, like, some people use DVDs hanging on ropes, because the spinning little discs and the flashes of light that kind of spray everywhere when they spin around will keep birds away. Even stringing ropes across the chicken run will help, because they can't dive in there very easily then. But you can actually use overhead nets, like bird netting, over the top of your coops. But the problem is, as soon as you do that and you get a heavy snow, they're pretty much on the ground and caving in your fence.
Well, that's no good.
Yeah.
So DVDs on ropes, and it has like a mirror ball effect.
Yeah.
And then they don't, and the birds don't like it. Interesting.
Yeah,
or just go buy a disco ball.
Yeah, well, you could do that too, I suppose.
Yeah, but I have a lot of CDs from the 90s though that I will never listen to again. I have no disco balls lying around. Yeah. So I'm all about the repurposing.
Unfortunately, I have a couple of disco balls.
So what about stuff that crawls then? So not the overhead things.
So we've also got smaller stuff like minks that will come in, weasels, anything else, even rats. You're going to try and get into your coops or whatever animal cage you might have. And the problem is that if there's an opening bigger than a dime, in some cases, you're going to get predators in there. We'd like to think that we've had our stuff sealed up pretty well, but even then, animals still get in. So I guess number one, lock all your valuable eatable animals up at night. And even over the windows, you got to keep a hardware cloth over top of it, which is like basically an oversized screen for the screen doors, but like probably 1 centimeter squares and it's nice thick wire. And the reason you do that is because you want to keep the raccoons out because they'll come in through the screens of the windows if you leave them open during the summer or something. Because they'll find a way in, right?
Well, yeah, of course. If there is a way, they'll find it. And
I've seen
are there any
actually,
other deterrents? Like I've seen people putting nails or spikes facing out to deter climbing. Has anybody found that to be effective?
I missed what you said there, but I think you were talking about roofs.
No, just like spikes or nails pointing out so that they can't climb up like a squirrel deterrent on a bird.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. That might work. Yeah, it just depends. Like even like the raccoons will come in through the roof if they'll pull up shingles to get into a coop. Sometimes they're insane.
That's a determined coon.
Oh yeah, no, but I've seen crazy stuff around here too. Like mink being nature's serial killers, they just kill the chickens. They don't eat them. They just drink the blood and call it a day. Yeah, it's a real waste. If things have gone sideways and you're depending on those chickens for eggs, it can be a problem. You don't want to lose all your flock overnight either, right?
And so what about bigger stuff like coyotes, bears? And I suppose that depends on the size, how far out you are, depending on the size of the bear.
Well, you want convoluted or complex locks, not just like a latch system, because bears can figure out latch systems. They just don't have opposable thumbs. So
what was that was the thing with at Yellowstone Park? They said there's a significant overlap between the smartest bears and the dumbest tourists, and that's why there's no bear-proof garbage container.
There you go. So sturdy doors on the coops more than anything else. Make sure that it's not something they can smash in very easily or open easily. Keep all your feed in sealed containers more than anything else. Again, having a guard dog will help a lot to not just alert you, but also deter animals from coming in. I don't know about coyotes per se with dogs. They have a tendency to lead dogs out to the field and kill them with a pack. But but by the same token, though, like a dog will take care of most of your problems, right?
And would having a motion light disturb your chickens in that case?
Sorry, say that again, Al?
Would having a motion light disturb your chickens?
Yeah, that'll help a bit, I think, too. But just like anything else, they can get used to that. But I mean, a solar-powered motion sensor light would be great, especially with a power outage extended. Doesn't require any outside influence there. But I guess more than anything else, it can't hurt, I guess.
Especially if the chickens are inside, right? And the motion light is outside to deter the larger things wanting to get at them.
Well, yeah, if you had it inside, they'd just be crowing all night as soon as it goes off. So,
of course. And is there any benefit to raising your coop off the ground? Would that help deter some animals?
Well, all my coops are actually off about the ground by anywhere from 1 to 3 feet, and so it does keep the rats down. Okay. But the rats will still come up, and I think everything else just uses as a challenge. They didn't get in there anyway.
And I don't suppose doing things like coating the outside with metal would help, or packing steel wool into the joints or anything.
Steel wool might help because nothing likes to chew through steel wool. Like most of the stuff, when they bite it, they get that kind of just like when you chew on aluminum foil taste, and it usually deters them right off the bat. Like actually, insulation foam they eat right through, no problem. But yeah, steel wool will stop them.
Okay, so pack the joints with steel wool, get it off the ground, and keep the openings as small as possible. That all makes good sense. Jeff, you put a couple of notes in about raised beds. I think we talked about that, getting the beds up and the fence buried deep.
Yeah, basically, like I said, I built mine. I built mine 4 feet off the ground to try and keep the low critters, so the rabbits, the raccoons, the groundhogs, whatever. But I was just thinking, and I know it's been mentioned, if you don't have a raised bed and you chicken wire it and you don't bury it deep enough, they will just burrow under it, and they'll have their smorgasbord at your expense. So,
and What about now? Part of raised bed gardening in a lot of cases is drainage. Like if you put gravel under your soil, would that help to deter things from digging under it, or will small animals just like dig through the gravel as well?
I'm going to guess it probably won't, but I could be wrong. I mean, I've seen, you know, been in fields where it's just nothing but rock, and there's groundhog holes and animal holes everywhere. If they're desperate enough, I mean, it's just like a thief. You'll slow them down, but if they're desperate enough, they'll figure out a way to get in there and get at it if they can smell it and they know it's there. So,
I suppose.
just my thought.
And then squirrels from overhead. When we're talking about your garden beds again, we didn't talk about overhead coverage for squirrels or birds. Same concept as chicken coops. Put the netting over top.
Well, I haven't got that far, and I'm hoping I don't have to. Now that you've mentioned that, I'm probably jinxed. So
there I go, creating problems again.
So that will probably be my next move, is figuring out something to go over the top of it.
Have you experienced that, Ian? No, I think we've lost Ian. But Frey makes a great comment here. We pour everything from the cat litter around the chicken pen and seems to deter the mice. I suppose that would. If things smell like a predator, then they wouldn't want to come close.
Especially a male cat. A male cat. Just a urine smell would probably keep them away, and maybe a few other things too.
Yeah, it's always worth a shot.
Yeah, no, I didn't really have much else, Alan. I just it's kind of a thin topic, but we just had a listener request, so I think it was Scott that actually asked as well. But
well, we're not talking about gasifiers, so Scott's not here. So
well, I told him, I said maybe gasifiers will keep the pests away, and he still didn't show.
And I think in record time we can move into the podcast challenge. Jeff, what do you got?
Well, if you have a garden, figure out, do some investigating, and install at least one means of protection. Be it
that, for the record, is permission to buy a new shotgun.
Woohoo!
I will agree with that.
Frey also has a good comment there too.
You can also soak rags in ammonia and leave them around, especially if you know you're going to be away later in the evening and you want your birds safe. I would imagine that applies to just about anything that would come into your garden. If smaller predators don't want to be aware of the bigger predators, then the smaller predators would likely avoid, or the smaller prey would likely avoid that area too if it smells like predators. So that's definitely something to try. We'll try that out this year in the garden and see if it's effective.
The only reason I didn't put a garden in this year, we have too many things going on around my place, but I'm going to definitely keep a lot of these hints and tips in mind and try next year and see what happens.
Okay, so Melissa, since you're clearly still listening / watching, I want you to, next time you see Brad, write 162 on his forehead. And in a year, we'll try and remember why you wrote 162 on his forehead, but it'll all make sense.
Yeah, I get it. I still have access to the show notes.
So install at least one means of protection. What do you have for upcoming events, Jeff?
The annual Preppers Meet is on in Desboro, Ontario. It's out in Western Ontario there near Walkerton, I believe. July 7th to 10th. If you want tickets, go to their website, www.annualpreppersmeet.com, and you can grab your tickets there.
That's provided the monkeypox lockdown doesn't happen in the meantime.
Yeah, well.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
I'll just keep my mouth shut before we do get banned.
Please.
Ian, what's our deal of the week?
Right now, tents are 30% off at Cabela's. So, I put the link in the show notes, but anywhere from I think $60 on up, you can get a pretty decent deal on tents right now.
I'm in for a new tent. I don't think there's any reason to not buy a new tent. Tents are like ammo. The only time there's too many is when you're trying to swim, right?
That's right.
I think my wife would kill me if I went and bought another tent. I think we've got 5. Oh, she's giving me the death eyes right now. I think that's a sign that I shouldn't go buy one of those.
Oh, see, and I got a thumbs up. So,
Oh,
what do we have for shout outs, Ian?
I got one for listener Barb. I was actually surprised. I didn't realize she was watching the show all the time, but supposedly she is. So just a quick shout out, and yeah, hope to see her soon.
All right. Well, Barb, jump on the show notes and get your comments in. We love seeing those. There's also in the show notes a link to our Discord group where we chat about all of these things and significantly more. And we have the survival PDF collection, which is also in the show notes, worldstudybible.com, blah, blah, blah. And that is all the good times, all the good stuff we have for that. I'm going to go into an email from a listener.
And just a note, a note on the sorry about that, on the Discord thing. I know we talked about it earlier with the whole storm and all that. I'm also a bit of I guess I could call myself a weather nerd. I've been up close and personal to 2 tornadoes. I don't want to go. I don't want a third. So I'm always keeping a pretty close eye on the weather. I follow a few people online who are storm chasers and that kind of stuff. So I've been plopping stuff on the Discord since Wednesday about this coming storm. So Discord is great for ideas and stuff, but it's also great for heads up, this is coming or something else is going to happen. So it's a great place to be.
Yep. And Jeff absolutely called this. We're going to start calling him Jeff Stradamus, and the farmer's Alma Jeff, and we'll get. But yeah, it's there was no surprise that this was coming based on what we were seeing in there. So that was it's a great place with a lot of resources. So get yourself over there. Even if you don't do anything else with Discord, it's a great place to meet up with other people that think like us and act like us. Hopefully a little bit better behaved than me, but overall it's a good place to go, and you can usually get us there as well. All the hosts are there, and we're always happy to answer questions, just like we're happy to answer email questions like this one from Sasha. And Sasha, I apologize in advance if I'm not if I'm mispronouncing your name. It says, "Hi there. Some time ago, I emailed your team about bug out options. My question was how to establish a solid communication environment once we had in fact bugged out, whether due to civil unrest, natural disaster, or whatever the case may be. I didn't get a reply. In any case, I now have a solution, which I will share. Once you have your preferred location, you can communicate by setting up a base station radio, one with support for higher output power and also support for multiple bands or frequencies. That would be set up in a crossband repeat mode. Walkies, handheld radios that retransmit via more powerful radio to remote groups, which is to say that a local short range UHF frequency on a UV5R or similar can be used to coordinate between a local group, and then depending on how one would want that to propagate, one frequency could have a special UHF signal run via another HF or VHF frequency that is established in a crossband repeat function. That transmission could then be retransmitted via HF to a group of people or remote station that is much further away. That allows people with simple walkies to communicate with remote parties using only what is effectively a mobile repeater. The same concept can be used to allow scouts to communicate with home base. For example, a scout could travel to a high point or could be involved in a search and rescue coordination. They could be watching for fire breaks, enemy activity, zombie hordes, rescue helicopters, whatever the case may be, and could transmit back to the home group who could be in a valley below or searching for a lost hiker, whatever. The scenarios are endless. The main point of all this is that a group of people can coordinate with another team member using an interim rebroadcasting system, one that has more capability, more power, and more reach. While requiring a ham license, it offers a lot more power than you could get from a simple handset and also extends the capability of that handset significantly. It would be good to include this in your shows, since I don't think people realize just how powerful this technology is, especially in the places where not everyone can have a sat phone, where there's no mobile, 3G, 4G, or better towers. With regards, Sasha. So first and foremost, Sasha, we apologize for not getting back to your email. I did a quick look before the show, and it's not in my inbox. I'm wondering if maybe it got filtered to a spam email, which is bound to happen. But in any rate, we do love getting these, and for the most part, we try to reply. So that's item one. Very sorry that we didn't find your email and we didn't get back to you. Secondly, yes, you're absolutely right that a repeating function 100% makes for a better system for mobiles, but as you mentioned, it does need a license, and specifically if you are rebroadcasting and repeating, you need an advanced license. So make sure that you are
Well, actually, I think,
properly
Alan,
licensed for that.
if you do a crossband repeater, I don't think you need to actually get advanced for that.
Okay.
Like if you actually transmit on VHF and receive on UHF or something like that, or vice versa, it's okay in Canada anyway.
Okay.
But yeah,
so check the exact regs for that, because I will stand corrected if I'm mistaken, but I was on the understanding that any retransmitting needed to be an advanced license. And I could be wrong, because you are much more you're much nerdier about this than I am. So
mildly nerdier, but yeah, no, I think it's a little exemption they give.
Yeah, actually, I'm leaning towards Alan being correct because in order to set up and operate a repeat system, you have to be advanced. So if you get your license with honors, you can't set up a repeater station. You can't control it. You can't work on it. It has to be done by somebody with advanced certification. So, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. If it's a shit hit the fan scenario, do you really care? Do you think the government's going to put a ton of effort in to try to find you when the world is disintegrating? Probably not. But I mean, I'll double check with our absolute ham guru, Mr. Eric, and confirm that. But I do know that through the local ham club that you must be advanced in order to do anything with the club repeater system.
Yeah, so there may be an exemption if it's a crossband. Like I said, I can't point to that specific line in the book right off the top of my head, but regardless of what the actual answer is, make sure that you are adequately licensed for it, and that you have practiced with it, because as we have said many a time, it's great to have this down in theory. It's something definitely different when it comes time to test your gear and make sure that it works, like making sure that those UV5Rs actually will connect from wherever you need to send them, and you may have to put in interim repeaters, right? Interim broadcast towers, again, depending on where you are. So that it's certainly a great system without question. Make sure you're doing it in the right setup, as long as we are under the rule of law.
Same thing. I have a video in the show notes here that basically is showing how to put together just a pair of UV5Rs as a field expedient repeater. Not legal in current times, but during emergencies, hey, at least you know how to do it.
Yeah, and there's always that difference between what can we do and what are we allowed to do under our current circumstances. And the choice is always yours as to how literally you want to follow the law, but it is always our position that while the rule of law is in place, you should probably be following it and keep yourself out of trouble and keep yourself off any government lists that may be the result of your whatever activities that you may be doing.
I thought we were supposed to be on lists.
No, we want to try and stay off lists. The more lists you are on, the more likely you are to be found.
Correct.
Don't worry, Brad. You're on every list there is.
That's true. You're on a bunch of lists that you don't even know exist yet.
I don't doubt that in the least.
And I think with that, it's time to bring episode number 162 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find this podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Submit a review. It helps other people find us. Oh, hey, that one's also me. We do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want an early peek at the show, which includes me not knowing where I am in the notes, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That gives you an alert when we're going live. You can contact me directly at Alan, that's with one L, at prepperpodcast.ca. Brad, where can people find you? Take yourself off mute.
fourth time tonight, I think. I can be reached at batbradcpp@gmail.com.
And you can find me or send a generic email, being the great person I am, at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. And I'm on nobody's list, by the way, Brad, just so you know.
Well, you'll be on a list
Try
soon enough,
harder.
for sure.
Oh, well, I'm on
anyways,
more lists than I know.
Yeah, probably. Oh, just before I forget, I did a little bit of interning there, and I threw an Interesting Canada link in there. Yes, you can do crossband repeaters. It's in the comments of the show there. I'll put it in the show notes as well.
See? Told you were
you can-
nerdier than I am about that.
There you go. You can reach Ian directly by emailing me at theoutofretreat@gmail.com. And you can also find me at Canadian Patriot Podcast on iTunes, YouTube, and we record Monday evenings at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm also on the Discord chat for both CPPs. Email us if you want an invite. And there's you can find us discussing why government waste in society got me to raise chickens.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.